Good morning, I'm Tamala Edwards. Welcome to another special edition of Inside Story. You know, everybody is so stressed out in these times. My dentist said to me she's never seen so many people come in with broken teeth, not grinding their teeth, breaking their teeth in the middle of the night, dealing with the stress of everything going on around us and what's going on in their lives, feeling as though everything is abnormal, out of order. But what if this could be one of the best times of your life, one of the most productive, creative times of your life? Our guest this morning says that is absolutely possible for all of us. Let's say good morning to Natalie Nixon, Creativity Strategist and the author of the new book, The Creativity Leap. Good morning, Natalie.
Good morning, Tam. Great to see you.
It's great to see you and have you here with us. You know, when people are so stressed out, this is the kind of thing they're looking to have some sort of coping mechanism. But when they think of creativity, we think of people who are artists, they're painters, dancers, singers, that they have access to this way of expressing themselves and doing things differently. But for people in their cubicles, in an office setting, Zooming all day long, pretending to be teachers with their children, in more buttoned down professions, they tend to think, well, that's not for me. I can't do that. You say that's not the way we should look at this, that creativity is for everybody and could completely reorder your life.
Absolutely. So, what happens when we only associate creativity with the arts is that we end up ghettoizing creativity in the arts. And that's not fair to artists, and it's not beneficial to our society at large. In my view, to be human is to be hardwired to be creative. And so, what I did in my new book, The Creativity Leap, was to attempt to offer a simple and democratized and more accessible way to think about creativity. So, if we think about creativity as toggling between wonder and rigor to solve problems, then you really quickly see that to be an incredible engineer, scientist, teacher, plumber, farmer, parent, you've got to be super creative. And it's totally accessible to all of us. It's just a matter of exercising it. And so in the Creativity Leap, I share various examples and tactics and techniques to amplify creativity in your world and in your work.
So give us some examples. And let's take those two things that you've talked about, wonder and rigor. What do they really mean? And how could somebody sitting out there watching right now in real ways begin to apply that to their life?
Absolutely. So I think about wonder as awe, audacity, asking big blue sky what if questions. You started the segment by asking what if this quarantine COVID-19 moment might actually be one of the most radically transformative times of our lives. So asking those seemingly preposterous questions is the beginning of exploration and discovery that's essential in creativity. The rigor aspect is about discipline, time on task, incessant practice. It's not sexy, it's often very solitary work. And the reason why we need to be thinking about creativity in terms of wonder and rigor is that creativity is not doing whatever you feel like. There are rules, there are some boundaries, and actually, those constraints help us to even be more creative. So, a few examples: if you are in a position, for example, where you've recently been furloughed or are really recouping from maybe a layoff, this is an excellent time to go on what I call a listening tour. A listening tour with some of the aspirational people you'd like to talk to, but start with people who know you and who can give you some feedback about the crossroads where you are. And one of the things this begins to build is curiosity in yourself and to start posing those grander what if questions. It also helps you to get a sense of your present state. If you are a parent at home and juggling your own work as well as trying to guide your children through their studies, it's really important to design in breaks and pauses. And I am actually a big proponent of taking daydream breaks. I write about in the Creativity Leap that as a child, I was a mighty daydreamer, and I continue to daydream a lot more, but I just have to be more intentional about it. So some days it's a 90-second daydream break, other times it is 5 minutes. Yesterday, on the beautiful fall day that we had, I found 30 minutes where I could just take a walk. And what happens when we pause, exercising that wonder, is that we are triggering new and different neural synapses in our brains that help us to return to the work at hand in a much more energized state. So those are just a couple of examples.
And I would imagine that you also, this wasn't in the book, but you might say make a place for boredom because we don't get bored anymore. We always have a device, we're always looking at something, we're always distracted. And that's why it's when you first wake up or you're in your shower that things can come to you. When you do that daydreaming, don't have the other stuff getting in the way.
Oh, absolutely not. My mother used to tell us when we go to her and complain, I'm bored, she would say, only boring people get bored, which would quickly help us to say, I'm not bored anymore, right? But I do actually, when I take my daydream breaks, I use my smart device to time myself just because of the realities of the day. But I'm literally watching the clouds drift by. I'm literally watching an ant crawl on the pavement. When it's cold outside, I'll stand by the window. And it really is incredibly rejuvenating. And you also asked for examples about rigor. Sometimes in our organizations, we are conflating rigidity with rigor, and they're very different. Rigor is about making time for that heads down, solitary, intensive work. It often is about developing the fundamentals and the skills. So it's not that rigor is a bad thing. It's just about making sure there's a counterpoint always for the wonder and a counterpoint for the one for and vice versa. There's a corollary that I like to say, which is that wonder is found in the midst of rigor, and rigor cannot be sustained without wonder. They're copacetic principles.
I think I need to write that down and pin that up somewhere. I want to go back to what you said about the listening tour because I think we get so locked in our concepts of ourself. I am good at reading. I am not good at math. And we lock ourselves out of possibilities. Whereas if we asked other people how they see us, they might actually take some of the burden off our shoulders and give us permission to see ourselves in this different way.
Absolutely, that's exactly right. I was actually having a session with one of my coaching clients yesterday, and we were going through one of my loathe love audits. And what I was helping her to do was re-examine her assets, the skill sets that she just takes for granted, but think about applying them in a new context in a very different way, not even work related, right? So she's a researcher and thinking about how do you apply those research skills to something that you love? Maybe it's cooking or maybe it's self-help and that sort of thing. So getting that fresh eyes perspective, sometimes from people who know us well, sometimes from people who know us just a little bit, will really do wonders to shift perspective. And that's really what we're talking about when I am encouraging people to make creativity leaps. It's a shift perspective. At the start of the book, The Creativity Leap, I say on page 1 that making a leap, or I pose a question, what does it take to make a leap, right? The first thing it takes is to have your eyes on a prize, to have your eyes on something in the not so distant future. So you have to visualize. The second thing it takes is some kinesthetic energy. You can't just walk towards that goal. You actually have to have a running motion, which takes a lot of effort. And the third thing that's really important to remember about leaps is that it's impossible to leap backward. We can fall backward, but we can only leap forward. And so it's that energizing, positive, forward thinking perspective that's everything.
I love that. And when I read that, you never think about that, about a leap. And in that itself, that's positive. This idea that one way or the other, you're going to head forward, not to the side or backwards. But, we're talking to people about how to use this stressful time. Inherent in making a change is fear. That on one hand, you're saying, here's a piece of chalk, draw yourself a new door. But we often stop because we're afraid this is not my safe space. It's not what I'm used to. What do you say to people who are intrigued by what you're saying, but a bit afraid of it?
So I make up lots of terms. I love language, and one of my nerdy terms is apply the baby food method, which is deconstruct the problem into smaller bits. And part of my background is in anthropology, in fashion, design thinking, and so I'm a big proponent of the value of prototyping. We can prototype. Typically, we think about prototyping in fashion and design and tangible objects, but you can prototype experiences, you can prototype services, and you can prototype processes. And a prototype is a rough draft ugly mock-up. So one example, if you are tiptoeing towards a new state in the way that you work and the way that you're living, one prototype example may be that you pose a question, an open-ended question, welcoming responses to people on Twitter or on Instagram, whatever social media account that you use. If you're not on social media, send an email to friends. And in baby steps, you're getting the courage to what I call oxygenate your ideas, giving it air, giving it light. One of the reasons we do ghettoize creativity in the arts is that artists are excellent at sitting with the discomfort of ambiguity. They're not afraid of the process, and process is messy, right? When we shift to a process orientation versus a solutions orientation, we have to fall in love with that mess. And creativity, it turns out, loves mess. But one of the things that artists, designers are trained to do is this idea of the crit, right? Of airing out their idea, of showing it and getting that feedback, which is absolutely terrifying. But if we, in baby steps, and using that baby food analogy, if we break it up into small components and ease our way into it, then that obstacle that seems so monstrous, it seems like this huge mountain, we step by step will get there.
Yeah, I think we should say that this isn't just for our quote unquote working people. There are a lot of stay-at-home moms or retirees. Everybody's got a dream, and this process could move you closer to it. In the book, you break down 3 important steps: inquire, improvise, intuit. We're down to the last few minutes, but if you wanted to say a few words about that, I think it would give people a sense of the place where you'd be pushing them here.
Absolutely. So I realized it was not enough for me to just end with offering to people that they toggle between wonder and rigor. Then what, right? So the 3 I's, inquiry, improvisation, and intuition, are the ways in which we can do that toggling and exercise our creativity. So inquiry is about curiosity. It's understanding, as Warren Berger, the author of A More Beautiful Question, said, that asking questions is a way of thinking. So what, you don't know the answer, but asking a new and different question is the beginning of discovery. Improvisation has less to do with your ability to do an impressive jazz solo on an instrument, but it's everything to do with your ability to be adaptive, to say yes and. It's about the build instead of saying, yeah, well, we tried that 10 years ago and it didn't work. And finally, intuition is pattern recognition. And of the 50 people I interviewed for the Creativity Leap, consistently, they all acknowledge the role of intuition partnered with decision making. Intuition is a type of muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it gets. And the more we ignore it, the flabbier it gets. So if you consistently get more curious, learn to improvise, and act on your intuition, which is going full circle to our top of our conversation, it's about being still, then I guarantee you will expand your creativity quotient.
What would we do if we would just sometimes listen to ourselves? The book is The Creativity Leap, and I have to say also, you've got a TED Talk up at your website, figure8thinking.com, that is a great 16, 17-minute expansion on some of these ideas. And by the way, I too love Sinatra and Horace Silver, and there's a little bit of jazz in there too. So it's a great 16, 17 minutes. A lot to think about here for people, how to turn the stress into something better. Natalie, thank you for joining us. And before we leave you today, you the viewer, we want to let you know about something very special you're going to see this week on 6ABC, both in the evening newscasts Monday through Friday and an hour-long documentary over the weekend. It's called Our America Living While Black. Here's a taste of it.
This is more than a moment in our America. Here's the thing, we've been here before. We need everyone to stop, listen, like actually listen and learn.
To be Black in America is exhausting.
In a week-long special event, families from across the country share personal journeys through Our America.
This is our America.
Our America.
It's our America.
This is our America.
Living While Black, all this week on 6ABC Action News.
I was very involved in the group that put this together, the thinking behind it being so often when we come together on these issues, it's where people are disagreeing and don't know each other. What if there was an opportunity for people to get a better porthole, if you will, a way of looking into the lives of their fellow Americans and seeing a little bit more of the whole. I've actually also written a very special, very personal essay. You will see some of that on the air. You'll also see the full essay online. So I hope that you will take time, and I'd love to hear from you on it. But again, Our America, Living While Black, you'll see pieces of it all week, and then that special documentary over the weekend. We hope you are having a great weekend, and of course, we will see you back here on Inside Story next Sunday.